Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We all know the change of syllabus in the ICSE Council. In English, we had Treasure Trove and Merchant of Venice. This would be the last year. This year students will be writing exams on Treasure Trove and the Merchant of Venice. From the next year, children will have to read Treasure Chest and Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Such an interesting play. So, today's video is all about Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar is going to be explained by one of my close friends, Professor Raghavendra, who had taught this play for nearly 2 decades. So I thought his knowledge would definitely help my students as well as the teaching fraternity. He has a wide knowledge of this play. I hope his words will definitely throw some light on the understanding of this play, Julius Caesar.
Hi my dear students and all my dear colleagues. Today I am coming out with a lovely play, a tragedy written by William Shakespeare, and it is Julius Caesar. And this play is based on historical events, and Shakespeare's primary source of inspiration was a Greek writer, Plutarch's Parallel Lives. Plutarch has written a book called Parallel Lives, in which he deals with the illustrious lives of great Greeks and Romans. So the play Julius Caesar is inspired by this great man called Plutarch's Parallel Lives. And most of Shakespeare's opening scenes strike the keynote. Keynote gives us the meaning of the central theme. When the audiences watch the opening scene, they will understand whether the play is a comedy or a tragedy. And the opening scene in most of Shakespearean plays draw the attention of the audiences, because only minor characters are introduced by Shakespeare in opening scenes. And you come across minor characters commenting on major characters. In Julius Caesar, for example, the two tribunes, the minor characters, Flavius and Marullus, talk among themselves against Julius Caesar, this great man. And the audiences are afraid that Julius Caesar, this great man, is going to, face a few hurdles later in the play. To make you understand the significance of opening scene in Shakespeare's plays, let me first take you back to Shakespeare's tragedy called Macbeth. Even in Macbeth, the opening scene begins with the minor characters called the three weird sisters, the three witches of Macbeth. When the opening scene begins, you find a heath, a piece of wasteland wherein the three witches meet. And there, the three weird sisters talk about meeting Macbeth. And Macbeth is an honest man. And the three weird sisters are temptresses. They tempt people into committing sins. And let's just see what these three weird sisters talk in the opening scene in the play Macbeth. The first which says, "When shall we three meet again in thunder, lightning or in rain?" The second which says, "When the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and won." And then the third which says, "That will be ere the set of sun." Then the first which says, "Where the place?" For which the second which answers, "Upon the heath." And the third which says, "There to meet with Macbeth." Then all the three witches sing this song, and in this we find the values we believe in are being overturned. Look at these lines carefully. They say, all the three witches together, "Fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air." Look at this. And then the opening scene ends. They say, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." When the audiences observe these lines being uttered by the three witches, they come to know that people, as the play progresses, the characters in the play should not be trusted. And that things are not what they appear to be. We find a great patriot called Macbeth becoming a traitor. A great friend in Macbeth becoming a traitor. Macbeth killing his own cousin and king. Macbeth killing his own best friend Banquo. And all these things happen because, look at the opening scene. The three witches decide to meet Macbeth after the hurly-burly is done. Hurly-burly means the battle. That means that the audiences come to know that Macbeth is fighting a battle. And they say, after the battle is lost and won. So somebody is going to lose the battle and somebody is going to win the battle. And our Macbeth is going to win the battle, and he comes and meets these three witches. Rather, the three witches plan in such a way that Macbeth meets them. And when the audiences observe this opening scene, they are afraid of what is going to happen to Macbeth as the play progresses. This strikes the keynote. When the audiences, watch the three witches planning to meet Macbeth, they will come to know that the play is going to end in a tragedy and not in a comedy. So the opening scene in a Shakespearean play strikes this keynote. In the same way, even in Julius Caesar, the opening scene strikes the keynote. I've told you earlier that Shakespeare introduces only minor characters. In the opening scene, we have two minor characters called Flavius and Maulus, or Flavius and Maulus. And these two are the tribunes. They belong to the upper class. They have the responsibility of looking after the welfare of the people. And these two tribunes, Flavius and Maulus, are the strong supporters of Pompey, their former army general or hero Pompey. Let me tell you one thing, my dear friends. The play Julius Caesar is all about power politics. In Rome, there was this first triumvirate formed. Triumvirate, 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 in the form of Pompey, Julius Caesar, and Crassus. That they formed the Trinity, the triumvirate, the first triumvirate. And these three generals fought battles and started expanding the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was the biggest Roman Empire in the world, the biggest empire in the world. It went up to South Africa and it came down to, the Middle East. So it was the biggest or the widest empire in the world, the Roman Empire. And all these three generals, Pompey, Julius Caesar, and Crassus, started expanding the Roman Empire by fighting battles in their own way. And Pompey was based in Rome. And he was fighting battles and he was extending the Roman Empire in his own way. Julius Caesar was fighting battles and extending the Roman Empire in his own way. And Crassus, Crassus, Crassus was also fighting the battles and expanding the Roman Empire in his own way, in three different ways. But these three gentlemen, these three generals were expanding the Roman Empire. And while fighting with the Parthians, Parthians, Crassus was killed in the battle. Crassus lost his life and there was no one to look after the provinces or the countries that were won by Crassus. And when it came to the sharing of the power, there was a huge misunderstanding between Pompey and Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar happened to be Pompey's cousin. And power politics crept in. Power politics played a very dangerous game in the lives of Pompey and Caesar. And there was a civil war, first civil war between the supporters of Pompey and the supporters of Julius Caesar. And in that civil war, Pompey was defeated by Caesar and Pompey ran to Egypt. And Julius Caesar had him killed in Egypt. And when Pompey's head was presented to Julius Caesar in Egypt, Julius Caesar cried. Julius Caesar wept tears of, lamentation. And those tears were a pretense. Julius Caesar pretended as if somebody had murdered his brother and he was mourning the death of Pompey. But Pompey's supporters knew very well that it was Julius Caesar who had Pompey murdered. And Julius Caesar sent away some of Pompey's supporters from his country. But let me tell you one thing. Brutus and Cassius were the greatest supporters of Pompey. And when Pompey was defeated, Julius Caesar readily pardoned Brutus and cancelled his banishment and allowed him to stay with him. Because Julius Caesar knew very well that Brutus was a wise man, he was a great lover of freedom, he was a great lover of his country. like his, ancestor Lucius Junius Brutus. Lucius Junius Brutus was this Marcus Brutus's ancestor who lived perhaps 400-500 years earlier to our Marcus Brutus. And that Lucius Junius Brutus had 2 sons. And when his 2 sons supported the dictator called the Tarquin, Lucius Junius Brutus killed his own sons for the sake of freedom, for the sake of liberty, for the sake of protecting his country, and for supporting the dictator Tarquin. He killed his own sons. Lucius Junius Brutus was such a great lover of his country. And his descendant, our Marcus Brutus, also is a great lover of his country and a great lover of freedom and democracy. And so, Caesar readily pardoned Brutus, and Brutus became Caesar's angel, as it were. Angel. And Cassius happened to be Brutus's half-brother. Hence, on the request of Brutus, Julius Caesar pardoned even Cassius and others and cancelled their banishment and allowed them to stay back in Rome. But, mind you, Cassius still hated Julius Caesar because even Cassius was a great supporter of Pompey. And Cassius was waiting, to assassinate Julius Caesar because he did not want Julius Caesar to be crowned as the king of Rome. He wanted Pompey to be crowned as the king of Rome, not Julius Caesar. In the same way, in the opening scene, these 2 minor characters, Marullus and Flavius, or Flavius and Marullus, are great supporters of Pompey. And they do not want Caesar to be crowned the king of Rome. And they, in the opening scene, try their best to limit Caesar's growing power and popularity. When the opening scene begins, you find Caesar entering the city of Rome after defeating Pompey's sons and killing them in a battle. And you see people, crowds of people, waiting eagerly to welcome their hero, Julius Caesar. They want to celebrate Julius Caesar's triumph. And Shakespeare here talks about the fickle nature of the people's loyalty, changing loyalty. When Pompey won battles and when Pompey entered the streets of Rome, these crowds of people welcomed him by giving out a universal shout like, "Pompey, Pompey, Pompey." Now with the same voice, they are ready to welcome Julius Caesar by shouting his name, "Caesar, Caesar, Caesar." They are giving out a universal shout here. And these 2 tribunes, Flavius and Marullus, don't like this. And they, come face to face with these crowds in each street. And they tried their best to send these crowds back home. And mind you, in every corner of every street of Rome, you have the statue of Caesar up to the bust being erected. In every corner of every street of Rome. And these statues are decorated with garlands by the people, by the commoners, by the plebeians. They are also called plebeians. And each garland which has decorated Caesar's statue stands for the support of so many people for Caesar. And now Caesar is considered God by the people of Rome, the commoners of Rome, the vulgar of Rome. Vulgar means common people. And Marullus and Flavius are trying their best to send these people back home, and they're trying to, trying their best to stop Caesar's growing popularity. They do not want Caesar know that people are waiting for him to welcome him. So many thousands of people. They do not want Caesar to know these things because of that, they're trying their best to send these people back home. And the scene begins with the opening lines of Flavius. You just look at the opening scene. My dear students, keep following these lines. He says, Rome a street, enter Flavius, Marullus, and certain citizens. Flavius says, hence, home, you idle creatures. Get you home, is this a holiday? But it is a holiday because that day happens to be the festival of Lupercal. The citizens of Rome worship their god called Lupercus, who is the god of fertility. Lupercus is also the protector of flocks and herds. And he is the god of fertility. And that day is declared a holiday. Flavius and Marullus very well know that it is a holiday. And people are thronging, people are crowding in the streets to welcome, to celebrate the festival of Lupercal, and also to welcome Caesar and celebrate his triumph. Okay. But Flavius is trying his best to stop them from, welcoming Julius Caesar. He says, home, you idle creatures, get you home. Is this a holiday? What? Know you not, being mechanical, you ought not walk upon a laboring day without the sign of your profession? Speak, what trade art thou? He speaks to a carpenter. Here, Flavius trying his best to remind those citizens that it is a laboring day, it is a working day. He is trying his best to transform a holiday into a working day, because Flavius and Marullus hate Julius Caesar. They would have kept quiet if Pompey had become the king of Rome. If Pompey had got the support of the people, Flavius and Marullus would have kept quiet. But it is not so. Here you find Julius Caesar becoming popular. And so Flavius and Marullus are jealous of Julius Caesar. Jealous of Julius Caesar's growing popularity. Jealous of Caesar going to become the king of Rome. That is why these two tribunes, officials, are trying their best to, send the people back home. And the first citizen says he is a carpenter, and Marullus schools him. Marullus now says, if you are a carpenter, where is your leather coat, leather apron, and your scale, your rule? Then he says, why dost thou with thy best apparel on? Why are you wearing casual dress without wearing your uniform? And then, sir, tell me, what trade art thou? Then he speaks to a cobbler. And a cobbler is wiser than the carpenter here. Cobbler is one who mends bad souls. The cobbler, very humorously, very ironically, calls himself a surgeon of old shoes, a mender of bad souls. And here Shakespeare very cleverly uses what is called the pun, P-U-N. Pun is about, two words sounding alike but giving us two different meanings. And puns are used very ironically. Here you have a pun on two words. One on all and all, A-W-L and A-L-L. The second pun is on souls, S-O-L-E-S and S-O-U-L-S. Understood? Look at this, my dear students. He asked the cobbler, what trade art thou? Then the cobbler says, truly, sir, in respect of a fine workman, I am but, as you would say, a cobbler. And Moralist is confused because these people are enjoying themselves, Perhaps the cobbler is drinking some wine. The word cobbler also means wine, W-I-N-E. That's why Moralist is confused, because this cobbler is drinking wine and he's holding the wine bottle or wine pot aloft, and then he says, I am a cobbler. That means I am a drinker of wine. It could be the meaning of a drinker of wine. So, Moralist is confused, and so he again asks him a question. But what trade art thou? Answer me directly. The second section, this cobbler says, the cobbler becomes upset because he could feel Moralist being angry with him. Hence, cobbler very wisely pulls Moralist's legs. He says, the cobbler says, a trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. He calls himself a mender of bad souls. One meaning could be, he repairs shoes that are out of shape. And another meaning could be, he could even repair a man who misbehaves with him. A bad soul, S-O-U-L, soul is one who misbehaves with others. Look at Shakespeare. He makes even the common man behaving like an intelligent man. Because these commoners are the speakers who speak out of their experience. Then Moralist doesn't understand. When the cobbler says he's a cobbler, Moralist thinks that he's drinking wine, and so he says he's drinking wine. Moralist, what trade art thou, you knave, you naughty knave? What trade is this? You idiot, you rascal. You tell me about your profession. Why do you talk to me about the wine you are drinking? Moralist asks him. And the second, this cobbler said, nay, I beseech you, sir, be not out with me. Don't be angry with me. Yet, if you be out, sir, I can mend you. Look at this. If you be out means, if you spoil your shoes, I can mend your shoes. I can repair your shoes. And if you misbehave with me, I can even repair your bad soul. I can even change your behavior, bad behavior, rough behavior into a decent behavior. Look at the cobbler. Follow these lines very closely, dear students. He says, nay, I beseech you, sir, be not out with me. Yet, if you be out, sir, I can mend you. And Moralist is confused. He's still more confused. He becomes angrier and angrier. He says, what meanest thou by that? Mend me, thou saucy fellow? You indifferent fellow? You ill-tempered fellow? You disrespectful fellow? You saucy fellow? You mend me? Is the anger expressed by Moralist. What meanest thou by that? Men me thou saucy fellow? Then the cobbler says, why, sir, cobble you? And this fellow understands. Flavius comes into picture. He says, thou art a cobbler, art thou? And the cobbler now accepts. He says, truly, sir. And here once again he uses the pun. All that I live by with the all. All that I live by is with the all. A-L-L and A-W-L. A-W-L all is a sort of a rod, small, let me say, needle, which is used to, pierce the thread into the shoe or into the chappal. He says, truly, sir, all that I live by is with the all. And then he's criticizing the two tribunes. He says, I meddle with no tradesman's matters, nor women's matters, but with all I am indeed, sir. The cobbler says, he doesn't meddle, he doesn't interfere with, businessmen's trade or with women's matters. Just as Moralus and Flavius are interfering with them. In a way, he is indirectly instructing Moralus and Flavius to behave properly with them. Look, I repeat the lines. Truly, sir, all that I live by is with the all. I meddle with no tradesman's matters, nor women's matters. And he calls himself, he says, a surgeon of old shoes. Then he says, when they are in great danger, I recover them. He says, I am a surgeon of old shoes. When they are in great danger, I recover them. Because he is intoxicated. He is tipsy. He is drinking wine, And then Flavius now asks the cobbler why he is not in the shop. Why he is not doing his work of, mending the shoes or mending bad soles. Look at Flavius. He says, but wherefore art not in thy shop today? Why dost thou lead these men about the streets? Why the hell are you leading these people in the streets without being in the shop? Then cobbler says, he uses humor and then he comes to the fact. He says, truly, sir, to wear out their shoes, to get myself into more work, I am taking these people to make their shoes wear out so that I can get more work. Then he gives the fact. He tells Flavius, but indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in the triumph. Look at this. Now he comes to the point. The cobbler gives the two tribunes the reason why they have assembled in all these streets of Rome. He says, indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph. Rejoice means to celebrate. We are here to welcome Julius Caesar and to celebrate his triumph or his victory. Then, Moralus becomes very angry because Moralus and Flavius are, as I told you earlier, are the strong supporters of Pompey. They don't like the growing power of Caesar. I've told you the entire play is about power politics. Look at Moralus. Look at Moralus's anger. When the cobbler says they have, declared themselves a holiday to rejoice in Caesar's triumph. Moralus says, wherefore rejoice? Perhaps he catches hold of, the collar of the cobbler, and then he's asking him, Moralus, wherefore rejoice? What conquest brings he home? What tributaries follow him to Rome to graze in captive bonds his chariot wheels? Look at the question. Wherefore rejoice? Why do you rejoice? Why do you want to celebrate Caesar's victory? Has Caesar won any battle? Because the two tribunes know very well that Caesar has just killed Pompey's sons and entering this city of Rome. That's why they're very clear. They They say, wherefore rejoice? Why are you trying to celebrate? What conquest, brings you home? What conquests does Caesar bring home? What victories is Caesar bringing home? He has not won any victory, he has not won any battle. He has just killed their former hero, the former army general Pompey's sons. That's why he becomes intolerable, He says, what conquest brings you home? What tributaries follow him to Rome? Tributaries are the prisoners of war. When a battle is won by somebody and lost by somebody else, you find the prisoners of war. And these prisoners of war are tied by chains, and they are tied to the chariot wheels of these army generals. And when the chariots enter the city, the chariot wheels are followed by these prisoners of war being chained to the chariot wheels. That's why he is very angrily saying, what tributaries follow him to Rome to graze in captive bonds his chariot wheels? He is not bringing any prisoners of war because he has just killed your former hero Pompey's sons. And he calls them cruel men of Rome. Marullus very angrily calls these citizens traitors. Cruel men of Rome. Says, you blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things, oh, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome. These are the words very angrily used by Marullus. Oh, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome. Then he is trying his best to remind the people of their former hero Pompey and how they used to welcome Pompey in the past. Look at the question put by Marullus. Knew you not Pompey? And he is talking about how they used to welcome Pompey. Many a time and often have you climbed up to walls and battlements, to towers and windows, yea, to chimney tops. Your infants in your arms, and there you have sat the livelong day with patient expectation to see great Pompey pass the streets of Rome. And when you saw his chariot but appear, have you not made a universal shout? The Tiber trembled underneath her banks. So he is very angrily reminding the people as to how they used to welcome Caesar by holding their infants in their arms and climbing the battlements and the forts and all these things. And if they could but see the chariot of Pompey appear, they used to give a universal shout like, Pompey, Pompey, Pompey. And Marullus uses an exaggeration by saying that even the Tiber trembled underneath its banks to hear the universal shout given out by the citizens. And then he becomes very angry. And Flavius and Marullus tells them, you are an ungrateful lot. You people, you are an ungrateful lot. And so the only way left for you to be pardoned by God says, run to your houses. Marullus says, run to your houses, fall upon your knees and pray to the gods to stop these pestilence or diseases or curse which is fit to be, fallen upon you. And then Flavius asks them to take all the people, asks Cobbler to take all the people to the Tiber River and weep their tears of penance, tears of regret, into the Tiber River and fill the Tiber River. Here once again he uses the exaggeration. Caesar had wept his tears, when after killing Pompey, when he saw Pompey's head being presented to him, even Julius Caesar shed his tears. In the same way, Flavius is asking the people to go and shed their tears into the river, Tiber River. Thereby they can, be pardoned by God for their ingratitude. Ingratitude is the central theme of this play, Julius Caesar. Keep it in your mind, friends. And then they go away, and Flavius and Marullus decide to go to different streets and try their best to stop these people from meeting Julius Caesar and then welcoming him. Flavius asks Marullus to go to a different street and try his best to send these people back home. And then Flavius asks Marullus to disrobe Caesar's images. I've told you, Caesar's statue up till the bust are, erected in every corner of every street of Rome. And you find garlands, decorating Caesar's statues. Now, Flavius asks Marullus to keep disrobing the Caesar's statues, because he doesn't want Caesar to observe those trophies or those decorations around his statues. If he finds them, he would feel that he has the great support of the people. And hence, look at Flavius. He asks Marullus to keep disrobing the images, and then Marullus says, it is the festival of Lupercal. May we do so? He asks that question. Are we allowed to disrobe images? Would we not be punished? Is the question put by Marullus. And Flavius doesn't care for that. He said, don't care for that. Keep doing these things. And then here he compares Julius Caesar's growing power to a falcon flying high. Understood? And let me read out those lines. These growing feathers, plucked from Caesar's wing, will make him fly an ordinary pitch. Who else will soar above the view of men and keep us all in servile fearfulness? These are the lines, the concluding lines of this opening scene. He says, these growing feathers, the growing popularity of this Caesar, this falcon called Caesar, if we should keep plucking the feathers, we should keep, limiting Caesar's growing popularity. Otherwise, Caesar will fly out of the reach of people and become God and keep all these citizens as slaves. He will treat all the citizens as slaves. That's why he says he would keep us all in servile fearfulness. The fears of a slave is called servile fearfulness. So with this, they decide to, prevent people from welcoming Caesar. They also try their best to disrobe Caesar's images, Caesar's statues. They decide to, pluck all these decorations that have decorated Caesar's statues, thereby limiting Caesar's growing popularity and Caesar's growing power, because Caesar has become a god in the eyes of these. With this, we come to the end of the opening scene, and here we come to know that Marullus and Flavius have done an unpardonable sin because they have disrobed Caesar's images. They have decided what they have disrobed. And thereby, in the next scene, we come to know that Flavius and Marullus were killed by the people for disrobing the images of Caesar. We come to know that they are put to silence. Casca says, Flavius and Marullus are put to silence for disrobing Caesar's images. And here, with the end of this opening scene, we come to know that this great man Caesar has a lot of opposition, and so the play definitely is going to end on a tragic note. Thank you very much. We'll meet up next time when I take up the second scene, Act 1. Thank you.